If you look to your left right now at the top of the hill, you'll see a long concrete wall that's run alongside the bank. That's the flood wall of St. Louis, which ensures flood protection for the city. It's about 20 miles long, stands about 20 feet tall, and designed to hold back flood waters that can stage about 52 feet on the gauge. The cost of that flood wall was $89 million. Since completion back in 1973, the city of St. Louis has only seen 3 major floods. One in 1973, 1993, and 2019. Had this wall not been in place, the city of St. Louis would have suffered over 100 million damage during each flood. The highest flood on record happened back in 1993, and that's when the river reached stage about 49.9 feet. At that stage, that river was about 17 feet big inside that wall, just about 3 feet big top of it. Now, there are a couple ways you can tell the river's kind of high today. Just by looking out here today, you can see a little debris floating down the river, such as trees, logs, twigs, and little trash. Now, as water starts to go up, it begins to wash stuff off the banks up north and brings it down south. Another way to tell the river's kind of high is just by looking at the color of it. It always turns a bit muddy or brown when it gets high. Now, it really doesn't matter how high the river gets here in this location. You can always see the bottom of the river right here at this point. If you don't believe, go decide about for yourself, you just might be see that bottom. Now, for those that are having a hard time trying to see the bottom of the river, let me help you out. You can always see the bottom because it is floating on top. You see all the sandstone on top? Well, that same stuff is on the bottom, so we didn't miss anything. We used to put this muddy brown water here in St. Louis because above us we have another river known as Missouri. On the west side of the United States, a lot of soil that falls inside that river flows down to Mississippi, then through St. Louis. And this is how we get our muddy brown color in the St. Louis area. Now, we go north 13 miles north of this location, we will get to the confluence of the 2 rivers, and at that point, you can actually tell the difference between the 2. You can see that one is a muddy brown color, the other dark green. Now, look over to your left once again, top of this hill, you'll see a building in the background. It has this large painting on the side of it. The name of that painting is called Migration. That's a big Welcome Missouri sign for the people coming across the bridge out ahead of us. It was painted back in 2014 at the cost of about $135,000. It took at least 4 months to paint it with about 500 gallons of paint. Now, the most remarkable thing about this painting on the side of this building is that it was all done with just 2 fingers. Just kidding, it was done with spray paint. Now, the name of the building was the Cotton Belt Railroad Depot, was shut down back in the 1930s. Now, one of the main products that came to that railroad depot was cotton. And at one point, St. Louis was a big distributor of cotton around the United States. But today, St. Louis is a bit bigger than that. St. Louis is a big transportation hub. The reason why we say it's because we do have all these barges that run up and down the river. We do have these bridges that cross the river to transport goods either by truck or rail. And on the outskirts of the city, we do have a few airports. The spot we're cruising today is nicknamed as the AgCoast America. And today's tour travels just a small section of the broader 15-mile stretch of river that runs through the greater St. Louis MSA, which is gaining recognition as the AgCoast America. It's home to about 16 barge transfer facilities that total capacity can handle more than 150 barges per day, providing a high level of barge capacity anywhere along the Mississippi River. And some 435,714 tons per mile. It is 2.5 times more efficient as river use than its close competitor, according to most recent rankings by United States Army Corps. Those species come to wake up and invest more than $200 million in the region's agricultural barge infrastructure facilities since 2005. The most recent was just completed back in 2020. The numbers have contributed to the national and international awareness of the region as the AgCoast America, and the reinforced critical role the St. Louis region plays in the nation's great network. Alongside the main shore to our left and right, we do have a few docks that handle different types of commodities. The first dock we have here to our left is the Apex Oil Dock, and they handle petroleum products. Now, they'll bring a large tanker barge alongside this dock, and they connect these hoses dock to the barge. They move the product inside the barge, then just pump it around to those storage tanks. Today we have at least 2 barges tied off here. These are tanker barges used to transport petroleum products. Each barge is about 286 feet long and about 55 feet wide. When loaded, they can carry about 22,000 barrels of oil. The first barge here to our left is loaded, drawing about 8 feet of water. While the second barge up to our left is empty, drawing about 2 feet of water. Now, if you go to your right towards Illinois Bank, we have another dock known as the Bundy Grain Elevator. And at this grain elevator, they load a barge in 35 minutes to an hour with grain. We have at least 2 of those jumbo hopper barges tied up there. One is empty, but the other one on the far side of the dock is being loaded right now. Like I said, take about 45 minutes to get that barge loaded. At this right next, see there's another barge here at this next dock. They're putting the tops back on top of this barge. These are fiberglass tops, which weigh about 500 pounds. And that dock here to our left is the Continental Cement dock. Continental Cement manufactures over half cement used to build the Panama Canal. They manufacture cement here in Missouri. You know about Hannibal? That's about 100 miles north of us. Now they bring the cement barge down to this dock, and they will often by means of compressed air or by a vacuum.
What's this bridge?
The next bridge ahead of us is known as the Stan Musial Ben Memorial Highway Bridge. It was completed back in 2014 at the cost of about $665 million. It is the third longest cable stay bridge in the United States at 2,800 feet. The towers are about 400 feet above the water line. It's about 2/3 the height of the Gateway Arch, and they're about 1,500 feet apart. The weight of the main span concrete steel is about 31 million pounds, and there's about 1.9 million pounds of reinforced steel in it, followed by 6,000 cubic feet of concrete needed for the foundations. Now, there were some concerns about the river, but hey, that's all water in the bridge. Now, if we go over to your right towards Illinois Bank, once again, you may have noticed the area to the right does not have a lot of development to it. But the area to the right was once known as an island, named Bloody Island. Now, received its name from the many fatal duels that fought over there back in the 1820s and 30s. Back in those days, it was illegal to duel in the state of Missouri and Illinois. So people take both this island to have their duels. It was considered to be a no man's land. Neither Missouri nor Illinois had jurisdiction on this island. In 1837, they had plans to join this island to the Illinois Bank. Those plans were headed by Lieutenant Robert E. Lee, the same man became Commander-in-Chief of the Confederate forces during the Civil War. He had a plan building back up the top of this island over to the Illinois Bank, and that would stop the water between those two, make them sift and become one. At the same time, made the channel sink a bit deeper, large class steamboats make their landing at the St. Louis River front. Now, between 1850 and 1860, the road did help the city of St. Louis when third business support the United States, though behind New York and Philadelphia. Now, as we make our way up the river, I'd like to talk about the Mississippi for just a brief moment. River source discovered back in 1832 by Monroe Schoolcraft. The Papa Water starts a small lake, finding Lake Itasca in Minnesota. It starts out by flowing north, then it makes a question mark curve for some marshes, lakes, and wooded areas in Minneapolis. Now, because of the tribbles, a waterfall named St. Anthony's. Now, between Minneapolis and Granite City, the river was quite wildly turbulent, and the main navigation was hazardous. In 1878, the rest made attain the river, and by 1959, those operations were completed. Today, there are now 27 locks and dams up north, which turn this once wild river into a series of slackwater lakes. Above St. Louis, Missouri, and Illinois Waters into Mississippi, 20 miles south out of St. Louis, where the Ohio River comes in. Now, at that point, the river starts widening out and it slows down. It becomes known as the river, amongst others, as the Old Man River. It then makes journey down to New Orleans. Let's go Mexico where it meets its mouth. It has been estimated to be some 2,040 miles long, and it can get as wide as 2 feet to about 2 miles. Our first locking dams above us, just past those 2 bridges, now to the right-hand corner. That's known as Locking Dam 27, located at Granite City, Illinois. To go from St. Louis to St. Paul, you will navigate these 27 locks and dams to get up north. These locks and dams work like a flight of watery stairs. They will best pass from one level to the next. Without these locks in place, it would be nearly impossible for a boat to make it up north. To take a trip from St. Louis to St. Paul, that's a 7-day trip at about 640 miles. To go south to St. Louis to New Orleans, that's a 5-day trip at about 920 miles. The last dock we have here to our left is known as the North Market Street Dock, placed here back in 1962. It is the furthest inland terminal that can handle containerized cargo from Europe and Asia. At this dock, they will handle any product in Pennebrook fashion. They will have processed bag and bulk sugars to form domestic steels. And today we have a harbor turbo putting a spot in the barge at this dock right now. On board this boat, they do have a crew that consists of a captain and 3 deckhands. Now, they work a 12-hour day when these barges are around. Now, a boat this size can push about 12 of those barges. Now, I think inside this barge might be salt. That's the salt they use to ice the streets during the winter. Just now we're going to get turned around and head south, and I'll be handing the microphone off to our park ranger, Rachel. She'll be telling you a little bit about the Gateway Arch, some St. Louis history. If you need to use our restrooms, they're located on the first deck towards the back of the vessel, and the snack bars on the second deck stern.